Hi everyone, welcome back to Science Enrichment Online, and today's experiment is entitled Pumping Heart. Now, usually I provide the instructions for my experiments ahead of time, but I didn't do that today for this experiment because, to be honest, I had a really hard time writing out step-by-step instructions for this experiment. So I decided to just give the instructions directly in today's video, and I hope that works out well for you. If you have any questions, of course, reach out to me and I'll try to clarify everything that goes on today in this experiment. Now, our materials for today are fairly simple. You'll need 3 glass containers. I chose to use some taller canning jars for this experiment because, well, that's what I had. So I'm going to start with these 3 glass containers. You'll also need 1 round, unused balloon. My balloons all say happy birthday. I'm not sure why. I guess that's what I had, but yours don't need to say happy birthday. Just make sure that they're nice and round, and any color will do. And I chose red, of course, because of the human heart, in honor of our hearts. So 1 balloon is all you'll need. You will need 3 bendy straws. Now, these bendy straws that I have are super tall, and that's fine, but your straws might be different. Your straws might not bend, and that might be a problem. So if you're looking for straws, try to get straws of any length that definitely do bend, because that will help with today's experiment. You will also need some tape. You can use cellophane tape, you can use any kind of tape you have, duct tape, electrical tape, any kind of tape. Masking tape will work too. I'm using what I have. This is sort of a cloth bookbinding tape, and that's what I'm going to use. And the last thing you'll need today is you'll need a pair of scissors, at least for a little bit, but the most important tool today, believe it or not, is a pen. Now, you're not looking for a needle. You're not looking for something that has a point on each end. You're going to be looking for something that you can hold at one end and safely use to make a very, very small hole. That's the key thing to this whole experiment. This. Now, you can use a thumbtack, you can use a push pin, you can use any kind of a pin where you can grasp one end safely and use the other end as a pointy tool. So those are the materials, and now here are our step-by-step procedures. Hang on, here we go. Okay, step 1 focuses on our 3 straws. So I've got 3 bendy straws. They're all fairly long. I've opened these straws up as far as they'll go. They're all the same length right now, and I'm going to call them straw 1, straw 2, and straw 3. So let's deal with straw 1. Straw 1 needs nothing done to it except open it up, bend it, set straw 1 aside. Now, straw 2 is going to be opened up all the way, okay? And I'm going to bend straw 2. Nothing else needs to be done to straw 2, but I'm going to keep it right there, okay? Now, straw 3. Straw 3 does not need any bendiness to it whatsoever. So if I simply take my set of scissors here and cut off that bendy part, no more, no less, just the bendy part, I can take that little bendy piece and throw it away. Psh, done. So I have a straw now that's a little shorter than this other one. And what I want to do is I want to take the part that was uncut by the scissors, which is this end, and I want to connect these two just like here. So to connect these 2 pieces of straw, I'm going to need some tape, and that's easy. Now, my tape is really wide, really sticky, and I don't need to have a whole width of tape, so I've pre-cut this tape so I would have 2 halves. I can take 1 half and set it aside, and for the other half, all I'm going to do is this. And you can use whatever tape you need, and it's fine. It'll work just fine. I'm going to place that first half on the tape, just like so. Now my other cut half, I'm going to align so that it's exactly with this other piece. I'm not going to apply any pressure. I don't want that straw to fold or crimp or be flat of any kind. I want it nice and round. I'm just going to gently apply the tape. Now all I need to do to apply the rest of that tape right now is gently roll the sticky part of that tape on. So now I just make it nice and round, nice and firm, but now I've joined this cut straw to the bendy straw, and you're going to notice that I want this bendy piece here nice and curved. I'm going to have a different length on this side. And this is going to be very, very simple. Just for now, take your scissors, just like this. And even with this other side, I'm just going to cut it. Now, what I have is sort of an A shape, sort of a mountain shape. And that's all I need, okay? I can take this piece that I cut off, put it aside, and it's done. So what I end up with now is I end up basically with two straw assemblies. I end up with this one and this one, okay? And that's enough for now. Let's go on to step 2. Here we go. Okay, step 2. For step 2, I need one of my glass containers, and I forgot to mention in the materials list that I need some water in this first glass container. Now, my containers are fairly tall, yours might be shorter, yours may not have straight sides, that's okay. But I'm going to fill mostly water into this glass container, okay? So once I have the water in that glass container, I'm going to take a second ingredient that I failed to mention in the materials list, and this is going to be red food coloring. You don't need it for this experiment, but since we're talking about the heart, I thought it might be good to add just a little bit of coloring to this water so it simulates more of the blood that the heart pumps. Now, in case I tip this over, I don't want my tabletop here and everything to be dyed red. That would be bad. But I'm going to add just enough drops of red food coloring to this water to give it a red appearance. That's all I want. I just want the appearance of redness, and that's fine. Now I'm going to put that aside very, very carefully. The next ingredient you need for this step is your round red balloon. Remember, you don't have to buy balloons that say happy birthday, but as long as they do say happy birthday to you, you know who you are. Good. Now, I'm going to take my balloon and my pair of scissors, and all I'm going to do is find where the neck of the balloon here joins the body of the balloon. Where that neck and the balloon join, I'm going to take my sharp scissors without cutting my fingers off, and I'm simply going to cut the neck of the balloon off very gently. If your cut is not perfectly straight, it should make no difference whatsoever. You can take the neck of that balloon and throw it away, and take this balloon just like this. Now, this balloon is cut on one end, okay, like so, and it's solid on the other, okay? Your balloon is going to be this way. The cut end is going to be down. And what you're going to do is you're going to go back to your container that has that liquid. And without ripping the balloon, you're just going to gently, gently, gently open that balloon up with your fingers, like so. And without tipping this over, see if I can do this without tipping that water over. You're going to apply that balloon. Woo! This is harder to do than I thought. Woo! Goodness gracious me. Okay, let's try it again. Open that balloon up. That's the secret. Now I've opened that balloon up larger than the size of that jar. And all I'm going to do is pull that balloon down. Now notice that balloon has tension now over the rim of that jar, okay? So there's no gaps on the side, and I pulled it far enough down where there's not a lot of balloons sticking up. So this container basically is mostly liquid, a little bit of air. I guess I could have added more water, but I'm not going to worry about that. It's fine. And then this sort of a drum of rubber balloon on top, okay? That's the end of step 2. Here, let's go on to step 3. Here we go. Okay, step 3, here we go. You'll need your scissors, your 2 straw assemblies, and your jar that's covered with the balloon. Now, first step, take your mountain-shaped or your A-shaped straw. The left-hand side is straight, and that can stay exactly the way that it is. The right-hand side, though, needs to be cut with your scissors. I'm going to take my scissors right here, and I'm going to cut at an angle like this. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, snip, snip. Good. Now I can take that little piece and throw it away. And notice that I now have a point right here. That's what you're looking for. Take the other straw assembly. This would be straw number 1. Now here, I'm going to cut at an angle, but I'm going to cut at an angle like this. So I'm going to snip, So it's just like this. Okay, good. So I've got a pointy straw end here and a pointy straw end here. We'll put those to the side just for now. Now you need your push pin. This is very, very important. I mentioned that the balloon covering this container right now is sort of like a drum, and it is. This drum is tight with tension. So I'm using a push pin now to make two very, very small holes. I want them to start off as small as possible because I want these holes to start off small. We'll just stop there. So I'm going to take on one side, and I'm just going to push that push pin in. Just like that, okay? Now, I can just barely see where that pin goes in. And now I'm going to do that in that same area maybe 3 or 4 more times. And I really have to look close to see this push pin going in, all right? That's about 5 times. And it's in. Okay, now I want that straw to push down into that container so the cut end of that straw is as close to the bottom as possible. All right, kind of like that. That'll work. Okay, good. And now, I've learned from this experience here that I'm going to have to really weaken this balloon. There's so much tension in this balloon that it's kind of fighting these straws going in. So let's make another hole right here. And I'm going to say do this 30 times. So here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There we go. Now I'm going to push that straw down so that the bottom of this straw is near the bottom of that jar. Now, the key thing here is this. I want there to be no gaps between the balloon puncture here and the balloon puncture here. I don't want these straws to be pushed closed, but I want them to fit with no air gap here or here. That's the important part. Okay, let's go on to step 4. Here we go. Okay, step 4, here we go. Now, step 4 requires us to put all our parts together. So I have my glass with a balloon and the 2 straws stuck into it through the balloon itself. I'm going to add one more jar that's full almost to the top with water. I'm going to place it on the left hand side of this jar. And again, I want the water in here to have more of a blood appearance. We are talking about the heart after all. So I'm going to add just a couple more drops of red to give it that beautiful red bloody color. There we go. Now once this jar has the food coloring in it, I'm going to lift up the middle jar, place this end of the straw into that first jar. I can move those jars a little close together, that's fine. Now I'm going to take a third jar, and this is going to be an empty container, and place it here. And this container should be under this straw. So congratulations, what you've just done to build all this right now is called engineering. You've built something to help us understand a bigger thing. Now, here's what I'm going to try to do. Very simply, I'm going to put my thumb here, okay? And all I'm going to do is I'm going to push down with this thumb gently without tipping anything over, without making a mess. And I'm just going to try to push this thumb down and see what happens. So here we go. So let's go push. What happened? Well, when I pushed down here, some red liquid came through and began filling this container. Let's give it 10 pumps. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now, I'm seeing a couple things. I'm not sure if there's any liquid going from this container through the straw to this container. It looks like our liquid is simply traveling from this container to this container. Let's try it one more time. Let's do a little bit more firmly. Here we go. No, I think there is liquid traveling to here. So it looks like every time I push down, I have at the same time liquid traveling to here and liquid traveling to here. So every pump, I get liquid going like this. With every pump of my thumb, I get liquid entering this container and this container at the same time. And look, this container is now beginning to fill up, okay? There we go, yeah, I can see that, yes, definitely. There's liquid traveling from containers 1 and 2 and going into containers 2 and 3. Excellent. Now you're going to say, gee, what is all this about? Well, this is about the human heart, and this is where step 5 comes in. Hang on. All right, let's put all of our information together right now. Our left-hand container, we're going to call the atrium. The middle container, we're going to call the ventricle. And the right-hand container, we're going to call the circulatory system of the human body. Now, we're going to change the name of these straws too. These straws aren't going to be called straws anymore. They're going to be called valves. Each of these straws connecting these two containers and this straw connecting these two containers are going to be called valves. Now, let's first talk about this container, which we labeled the atrium. So here is a diagram that I downloaded from the internet, and it shows that the human heart contains two atrium. They're called atria as plural. We have a left-hand atrium, we have a right-hand atrium, and those atrium received oxygen-rich blood that passes through our lungs, and then they pass through a valve in each atrium, and that oxygen-rich blood enters both of the atrium chambers by these valves, okay? Now, the atrium are called receiving chambers, and the muscle in the heart that makes up both of these atrium chambers is not very thick. In fact, it's fairly thin. All the atrium are doing right now on each side of the heart is receiving oxygen-rich blood from our lungs, okay? Now, the middle container here we call the ventricle. And just like we have two atrium in our heart, we also have two ventricles. These ventricles are on the left, and there's a ventricle on the right. And there are valves that connect the atrium to the ventricles. The left atrium has a valve that goes into the left ventricle, and the right atrium has a valve that goes into the right ventricle, okay? Now, when those valves open and that blood passes from both atrium to both ventricles, that blood is then awaiting another pump of the heart to move all that blood from the ventricles to all the parts of the body. That maintains our blood pressure, okay? That's why we call both ventricles discharging chambers. So it's a two-step process. As our heart beats, bum, 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 bum. That's not the muscle of our heart making that sound. I can wiggle my hand right here and the muscles on my hand aren't making sound. That bum, 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 bum sound is really the sound of the valves between the lungs and the atrium closing. That's the first bump. And the second bump is the valves between the atrium and the ventricles closing. Bump, bump. Now notice, the big difference between our models and the heart is, in a real heart, there is no air in the bloodstream, none. There's no air in the bloodstream in the lungs, there's no air in the bloodstream in the atrium, there's no air in the bloodstream in the ventricles, and there's no air in the bloodstream anywhere in the human body. Oxygen in the blood is very dangerous. You can die from it. Now, our model here does have air. And that's the big difference between our model is we're using sort of an air pressure to move. That's not how the heart actually works. There is no air anywhere in this process. It's just liquids, that would be blood, passing from the lungs to the atrium to the ventricles, and then the ventricles to the body itself, okay? Now the muscles in the ventricles are very, very strong. They're much stronger than the muscle walls in the atrium. Why? Because the ventricles have to be strong enough to pump that blood to all parts of the body. The heart is a massively strong muscle, and those muscles are the strongest in those two ventricles. They need to pass all that blood on to us. So when we hear that bum, 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 bum sound, that's the valves of the heart moving. Those valves are moving blood from place to place, from our body to the two chambers in our heart to the body itself. Listen, everybody, that's it for today's experiment. I hope you get a chance to engineer your own mock heart here and see how that pumping occurs. I hope you're well, be safe, kumbaya, have fun, take care. See you soon, bye-bye.